Please state your name, grade, and whether or not you are in CGS.
My name is Keelan. I'm in 11th grade.
My name is Kate. I'm in 10th grade.
My name is KJ Smith. I'm a senior.
Robbie Thompson. I'm a junior.
Trey Newcomb, 12th grade.
I'm Denasia Blackwell. I'm in 11th grade.
I'm Justin. I'm in the 11th grade.
I'm Cher. I'm in 11th grade.
Hi, I'm Brendan Murtha. I'm in 11th grade.
Peter Cole, 11th grade.
My name is Jenny. I'm in 11th grade.
It's the 21st century. This means that everyone's accepting, right? Well, my group, composed of Abby Roller, Lily Raffio, and myself, Derek Liu, disagreed. Racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination still exist in modern America, but we decided to look at this issue on a much smaller scale. So small, actually, that it could fit within the confines of a school within a school. At Brown McMahon, our motto is pride. Our halls have pride posters, our sports teams say pride after breaking a huddle, and every student is bubbling with our renowned Senator Pride. The only aspect of our school that most McMahon students do not take pride in, however, is the Center for Global Studies. Being in CGS ourselves, we have witnessed firsthand the embarrassment or even animosity that some students have towards CGS. The purpose of this documentary is to identify the validity and source of these emotions, and to discuss if there is any way to remedy the situation. Our first step was to find the validity of the supposed prejudice against CGS students. To do this, we asked both McMahon and CGS students to describe a typical student from each of the two schools. Here are the results.
How would you describe the typical CGS student?
Oh boy. Well, I think one of the great things about CGS is that there's kids from all over the place, like from all over the map. But I think there's almost like two sides of the spectrum. There's the CGS kids who are incredibly energetic and are just literally bounce off the walls all the time. And then the CGS kids who are kind of reserved, really academic, really kind of focused on their studies.
So there's like normal CGS students and then there's like CGS students.
Most of them, I'd say, are hardworking. They certainly are. They care a lot about CGS, which is a cool thing.
I don't know, they wear tails and stuff. They dress weird. I mean, but like they're big, so like it's fun. Like, I don't know, they're probably nice kids.
Weird, running around with their book bag, wearing costumes.
How would you describe a typical McMahon student?
Really into sports. Yeah, really into sports.
They're loud, funny, and outgoing.
Usually like belittling CGS students, and a lot of them I feel that they don't care as much for their studies as much as CGS students do.
Typical McMahon student. Skeptic of CGS. They're skeptical, yeah. Kind of unsure of what to think of the Center for Global Studies. Kind of a mixture of like interest and disgust at the same time.
Our typical McMahon student is basically like a normal student.
I'd say they're all pretty unique, but generally fun and passionate about what they do.
From our first round of questioning, we received the answers that we expected. They shed some light on the issue, but were ultimately reserved and not in complete alignment with what we had witnessed ourselves. It is only natural for people to filter their responses to be more socially appropriate, especially when told that their responses will be shared with CGS. To avoid this, we decided to ask students about stereotypes or generalizations they are aware of. This question is far less personal, and we believe that they inspired much more honest responses.
Okay. Are there any stereotypes surrounding this group?
I mean, stereotypes usually come from some truth, but some of the stereotypes that are just like, everyone watches anime and dresses funny and dresses in costumes and stuff.
Stereotypically, some of them are kind of weird. That's just a stereotype. I mean, like, they use cat ears and plants on their head sometimes.
Among the Japanese students, the stereotype usually is that they took Japanese just so they could watch anime, like, without any subtitles.
A lot of stereotypes that like I hear about is like a lot of anime for sure, and like origami, and like they wear like really weird things sometimes, and like very just bold and like different from
anyone else.
As you can see, these responses had much sharper edges than those in the previous round. After this question, we then asked the interviewees if they believe these stereotypes to be true. The general consensus was that certain individuals in CGS do fit the stereotype, but they do not define the entirety of CGS. We also asked about stereotypes surrounding McMahon students, and almost everyone agreed that there were none. Although we had sufficient responses, we still wanted another perspective on the issue. Thus, we turned to the teachers. We asked 3 teachers, 2 from McMahon and 1 from CGS, the same questions as the students, and here are their responses. Please state your name and what subject you teach.
Mrs. Carrero, I teach math.
How would you describe a typical CGS kid? Are there any stereotypes surrounding this group?
There are stereotypes that people bring to me about CGS kids, but I don't necessarily notice a stereotype that would distinguish a CGS kid from a Brian McMahon student.
Can you say those stereotypes that students bring to you?
So they tell me that there's students in CGS and then there's a CGS student.
And
Like, what's like the difference?
What do they say?
Yeah.
Okay, so that a student who's in CGS is just a student who wants to take a language like Japanese, Arabic, or Chinese, and a center kid is a student who, and again, this is not my opinion, this is just kind of what's told to me, is a kid who might have is really involved, like only with center kids, doesn't want to be a part of the McMahon culture.
How would you describe a typical McMahon kid?
I think there's no way to describe a typical McMahon kid. I think everyone is so very different.
So would you agree that there are no stereotypes surrounding this group?
CGS?
McMahon.
I would agree.
Okay. Before becoming a teacher at McMahon, were there any generalizations that you're made aware of about CGS?
Yes.
And could you discuss those?
I was not told, or just brought aware that you might have students who wear ears or tails, and those are probably center kids.
Okay, how do you see like CGS and McMahon kids interacting? Like, do they stay separate from one another?
In my class, I have not seen the separation. They all work together equally. The only difference is the CGS kids write symbols on my board I don't understand.
Please state your name and what subjects you teach.
My name is Joe Santalucia, Santa, and I teach math.
How would you describe a typical CGS student?
CGS students are often very unique. They are their own person. They are different from the norm, I guess you would say, the average. But I say they, that's only some, because some students I would not even know they're in CGS because they look and dress and act like everyone else.
Are there any stereotypes surrounding this group?
I think so. CGS, those are those weird kids that are downstairs. Just not my opinion. I like all the CGS students. Maybe dressing differently, perhaps colored fingernail polish in black, perhaps on boys. There's, I think, having to do with maybe anime or something. You'll see some outfits that are very different, unique on some students. I think it's great personally though, but that's some of the things that stand out to me.
Okay. How would you describe a typical McMahon student?
I don't think there is a typical McMahon student. We are very diverse. Thank you. We are very diverse here at McMahon. Students look very differently, different from each other, I should say. They act very different from each other. I think there's a big sense of understanding and allowance that everyone has for each other, though. Me personally, I like being in such a diverse the school.
Are there any stereotypes surrounding McMahon students?
I would say yes, because we are a mixed school, and I've been to other schools where the population is not very diverse, and maybe we're not a big city, but we are a city, so there's kind of a city look to those McMahon kids coming from outside of McMahon.
Before becoming a teacher at McMahon, what is a generalization that you're made aware of about CGS kids?
I have no idea. I didn't even know what CGS meant before I got here.
And how do you see like CGS and McMahon students interacting in your classroom?
Well, I think it's the same as all the students. I don't really see a difference because of the diverse nature of the school to begin with. I think CGS is a great fit for this particular school.
Your name and what subject you teach?
I'm Elise Dardani, and I teach world literature to juniors and AP Lang and Comp to juniors.
How would you describe a typical CGS student?
Typical CGS student is highly creative, excited about everything, and sings a lot.
Are there any stereotypes that surround CGS students?
Yeah, I think so. I think, good ones and kind of negative ones. So I think some stereotypes include creativity and just bubbly personalities, but I've heard people call them weird. Us, weird, I'll say us. Yeah.
Okay, how would you describe a typical McMahon student?
I don't have enough experience with typical McMahon students to feel comfortable talking about them that way.
Would you say that there are any stereotypes surrounding McMahon students?
I think that there are. I haven't been here long enough to know really what they are. I know that CGS kids have the "you're smart" stamp, while for whatever reason that's not what the conversation is around McMahon students, even though it's not true.
Before becoming a teacher at McMahon, what is a generalization you were made aware of about CGS students?
Well, it's kind of weird. I don't really consider myself a teacher at McMahon. I'm a CGS teacher who is absolutely a part of a bigger community. We're a small school within a bigger school. But I left Darien and came here because I wanted to teach at CGS. So one of the reasons why is because we have the reputation of caring a lot about community, and so far that is one stereotype that has been true.
Despite being far more eloquently worded, the teachers were ultimately aware of the same stereotypes that the students were aware of. CGS kids are typically weird, obsessed with anime, like to run through the halls with their backpacks, sing, and dress unusually. As many pointed out, this isn't the case for all CGS students, but it still comes to mind when people think of CGS. Before we decided to shame the entire school for generalizing, we did a little introspection. Me, personally, when I think of Republicans, I think of Donald Trump, building walls, and the notorious 1% of America. This, however, is also a huge generalization. Sure, these words have relation to the Republican Party, but only in the same way that anime and headsprouts have relation to CGS. Generalization often leads to prejudice, which then often leads to discrimination. Thus, in order to stop prejudice and discrimination against CGS students, we, as a whole, need to stop generalizing and stereotyping groups of people. Only then can we truly say that we live in an accepting society.